Hey everyone, nowadays with the film industry, the frequency of new actors coming in and veteran ones washing out is very high. I really feel like whenever there's an actor that has one massive role that gets them higher and bigger, there's at least 10 others that had the same potential but ended up worse. One of the most common reasons getting into drugs, either at the peak or the beginning of the career, which in this video, I learned happens a lot because of how miserable actors are when most of their roles are still in tiny movies that nobody knows, up until they hit one breakthrough job that gets their name out there, which is the best thing that can happen to an actor that's starting out at a very low point in their life. So it's very heartwarming seeing the stories of how they broke their addiction.
Out of every celebrity we'll cover in this video, there are a few who have fixed their life like Robert Downey Jr. Between 1996 and 2001, he was arrested on 6 separate occasions for some crazy different reasons. By this point, he'd already been a famous actor for roughly 10 years, although this didn't stop a judge from giving him 3 years in prison. Upon release, he managed to land a single TV show role, which he was then fired from after police arrested him again, this time for walking around LA under the influence without any shoes on. Given this also resulted in Robert Downey
That's not that crazy compared to the other stuff he did.
It was my lowest point in terms of addictions. At that stage, I didn't care whether or not I ever acted again, although thankfully this didn't happen. He'd appear on Oprah stating,
and I said, you know what, I don't think I can continue doing this. And I reached out for help and I ran with it. It's not that difficult to overcome these seemingly ghastly problems. What's hard is to decide.
Although with his reputation in the dumps, the only role he could land was in an Elton John music video, and when he did return to the big screen a full 2 years later, producers withheld 40% of Robert Downey Jr.'s income to ensure he wouldn't relapse midway through filming. Only 7 years after being released from prison, Robert Downey Jr. was cast as Tony Stark in Iron Man, which grossed almost $600 million at the box office and paved his way for another 7 Marvel movies, although Samuel L. Jackson's turnaround might be even cooler.
I still think even now, like I'm sure in the future something big will overtop that. But I still think that is like one of the biggest miracles in Hollywood, for someone to like go back from such a huge relapse and make such a huge, have like such a huge role in a movie.
And having grown up in a broken home, it's no surprise that Samuel L. Jackson became an alcoholic himself. In his early 20s, he was booted from 2 plays on Broadway for his substance abuse problems, and by his early 40s, he was still an unknown actor with no money and a heroin problem. Samuel L. Jackson finally attended rehab at the age of 43, and amazingly, only 1 week after doing so.
How old is he now? Or when he was like doing his big roles? If he was 43 when he was like such like a small actor, I want to know how old he was when he hit it big.
In a movie called Jungle Fever, which just so happened to be his major breakout role.
Once I got clean, everything kind of changed. The correlation between...
See, like he doesn't even look close to 43 right now in the podcast.
Just a couple of years after getting clean, Samuel L. Jackson starred in Jurassic Park.
He's probably one of those dudes that like no matter how old they are, they will look young forever.
Every single Avengers film. Despite finding no success until the age of 43, Samuel L. Jackson has grossed more than any other actor in human history, with Robert Downey Jr. being right behind him in rank number 2. This is good evidence that success is proportionate to struggle, which is a point often talked about.
Is that meant to be a curse where if you have a huge like drug addiction, you will immediately make like a huge comeback in Hollywood? I would not be surprised, because I guess if you are like in a very low point in your life, you would fall back on your drugs. But the second you have like one huge role that just makes you like so much money that you actually feel happy in life, I guess you wouldn't need to do drugs anymore. Because I feel like when you're in that situation, you recognize like you can actually do something with this career, so you want to like stay as safe as possible and not like fall back and just being like a somebody. Hollywood.
Oprah Winfrey. She was born to a single teenage mum who was living off welfare on a farm in Mississippi, and as a result, she was primarily raised by her grandmother, who dressed Oprah in stitched together potato sacks and whipped her for reasons as petty as playing with the family's drinking water.
You get whipped, then they'd be annoyed that you were still sulking about it. You better wipe that frown off your face.
It's therefore no surprise that Oprah had run away from home at the age of 13, although this would lead to her first job as a part-time news reporter, which she was then fired from shortly thereafter.
I only came to co-host a talk show because I had failed at news.
With nowhere else to go, Oprah joined one of Chicago's lowest lowest rated TV shows, which then became the city's highest rated talk show less than 2 months later thanks to her presence. Her contribution was so important, the show was not only named after her, but would also become the most popular talk show in American history only 2 years later. In 2003, at the age of 49, Oprah ranked as one of the world's 500 richest people, also becoming the first black billionaire in human history. And while that's a redemption almost impossible to top,
this is all like about some of YouTube videos. He goes from such a huge shift from like being like a nobody, wearing like potato bags, which I know is kind of up. That's kind of funny on one side as well. They go from like being nothing to being like one of the top billionaires in the US. Like what? There has to be one middle section that he cut out to make the video shorter.
Fergie began using crystal meth every day at the age of 26, causing her to drop down to 90 pounds or 40 kilos, stating, "The drugs thing, it was a hell of a lot of fun until it wasn't," given she experienced psychosis, dementia.
Isn't she the girl from Borat that he wants to kidnap and take back to the country with him?
I went one day into this church, and I thought that the FBI and the SWAT teams were outside of the church.
Although this episode in the church also happened to be her turning point.
And I said, if I go out there and the FBI and the SWAT team's not out there, then it's the drugs and I'm stopping. So obviously I went outside of the church and there was no SWAT team.
Did you keep your promise?
I kept my promise.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it.
Fergie kicked her meth addiction in 2002, just months before joining the Black Eyed Peas, where she'd find unbelievable success with Where Is the Love only 1 year later. Fergie has since had a child, built a net worth of $45 million, and is almost 22 years clean. But while Fergie had to wean herself off only one drug, Drew Barrymore had to do so with many. Despite coming from an extremely famous Hollywood
I really feel like that's the same woman from Borat. I just want to know. Pamela Anderson, yeah, that was the one that he saw in Baywatch and wanted to like kidnap. I wish it was her, man.
Drew Barrymore had to do so with many. Despite coming from an extremely famous Hollywood family and landing one of the lead roles in E.T. at the age of 7, Drew Barrymore was an alcoholic by age 11, a drug addict by age 12, put in a mental institution at age 13, and was legally divorced from her parents by her 14th birthday. She was therefore—
I like that tally of accomplishments. Divorce from parents, 14. Drug addict, 12.
And by her 27th birthday, she'd been married and divorced twice. Addiction had always been a major family.
Go easy on her.
All of her ancestors were alcoholics.
And would even lead to her doing a nude Playboy shoot in 1995, which would actually become a significant turning point. Steven Spielberg just so happened to be her godfather, and would send Drew Barrymore a blanket for her 20th birthday, attaching a letter with the message "Cover yourself up," also including the original Playboy images, which were altered to
savage.
look fully clothed.
Sure, most godfathers I see like the goddaughter, whatever it's called, in that like horrible situation, it would be like, hey, listen, it breaks my heart to see you in this place. I want to help you out. But he like threw her a towel and be like, go clean yourself up, you whore.
Made the choice to return to Hollywood, appearing in minor roles until her casting in The Wedding Singer roughly 3 years later. This then turned into 50 First Dates and Charlie's Angels, making her one of the world's most well-known actresses, just like Lindsay Lohan, although for a slightly—
Now I know her name. I don't remember her, but I know her name.
Worldwide fame at the age of only 12, and by her 20th birthday she'd acted in over 30 productions. However, it'd be during one of these movies called Georgia Rule that a letter was leaked implying that Lindsay's life was spiraling out of control. It read, "Dear Lindsay, you have frequently failed to arrive on time to the set. Today you did not show for work all day. I'm now told you don't plan to come to work tomorrow because you are not feeling well. We are well aware that your ongoing all-night heavy partying is the real reason for your so-called exhaustion. We refuse to accept bogus excuses for your behavior. Today your actions on Georgia Rule have been discourteous, irresponsible, and unprofessional. You have acted like a spoiled child, and in doing so have alienated many of your co-workers and endangered the quality of this picture. Moreover, your actions have resulted in hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage. We will not tolerate these."
Man, get off her back. She just wants to party. Let her be.
Stated she came to work every day after that. However, Lindsay's personal problems were only getting started. Just months after the letter went public, Lindsay checked herself into rehab for the first time, although this didn't seem to make much difference, as she was then arrested for driving under the
she's still 8.
Over the following 6 years, Lindsay was arrested a total of 6 different times while she'd she'd state, "It is clear to me that my life has become completely unmanageable because I'm addicted to alcohol and drugs." As a result, she'd lose contact with her family and attend court-ordered rehab a total of 6 times, while almost every movie she was cast in during this period was a complete and utter flop. But as the negativity
That was a real worst issue in her life. Every movie she was in just sucked.
Period of time where all of a sudden that maybe I do have a problem.
Over a period of time.
And in 2014, she chose to document the process in an 8-part series with Oprah.
My main objective is, to maintain my sobriety.
And have you been sober since
Yes,
we
I
last
have.
met? Yeah.
The show was given awful reviews. However, Lindsay Lohan was finally back on the straight and narrow. She'd moved
That has to be heartbreaking. Like having the worst period in your life, and they wanted to use that opportunity to make it turn into a documentary and show you people to show that it can be better. But the critics are like, nah, this sucks. I know she still has like a huge career after this, but if during that time, like during the present, you have like a documentary about yourself just flop, it would be a bit soul crushing.
Because there's a certain calmness that I find in Dubai. There's no paparazzi, no cameras, that's a big deal for me. Not to mention the strict culture has helped her to stay sober.
You don't see people going to liquor stores and drinking and that kind of thing. You can go out and have fun, but it's a different kind of fun that you have.
Lindsay has since fixed the relationship with her parents, gotten married, had a child, and even returned to the big screen. But while Lindsay's dark period could have likely been avoided, Liam Neeson's was tragically thrown upon him. Having found success with every type of movie you can think of, Liam Neeson and his family had seemingly the perfect life. However, on the 18th of March 2009, all of this changed unexpectedly. Liam Neeson's wife, Natasha Richardson, was taking a beginner ski class in Canada when she fell and hit her head. The fall wasn't bad enough for her to ask for medical attention, so she'd simply return to her hotel room and tell Neeson she'd taken a tumble in the snow. Well, it turns out her brain had been bleeding the entire time, and after experiencing a splitting headache, she was rushed to the hospital and pronounced dead shortly thereafter. Neeson's final words to his wife were, "Sweetie, you're not coming back from this. You've banged your head. I don't know if you can hear me, but this is what's gone down." While one of their sons stated, "It was so sudden. When it's unexpected and it's just a complete freak accident, it really sort of messes with your mind whether you believe in fate or not." She was a terrific, terrific mother. Neeson never remarried after the incident. However, he and his son played the 2 main roles in a movie called Made in Italy, the synopsis of which being almost identical to what they'd gone through in real life. Liam Neeson notably states in the movie,
"Disappointment is an absolute certainty. Everyone lets everyone down at some point. How you come back from that, that's romance."
with this redemption only being
I know that this movie probably helped them like grieve over the dead wife and mother, but I would find that way too depressing to immediately like take like a horrible life experience and put it on film and basically reenact that whole period of your life. I just couldn't do it.
Culkin. After starring in Home Alone at the age of only 10, Macaulay Culkin became the world's most famous child star. He continued to appear in movies for another 4 years before choosing to retire at the age of 14 so he could live a normal life. Culkin was described by co-star Joe Pesci as being a really sweet kid and even at his age very professional.
He brings an incredibly mature perspective to everything he does, in spite of being very young.
However, as Culkin became an adult, he'd go through many periods of turbulence. For starters, Macaulay Culkin's success ruined the relationship he had with his father.
Everything that he tried to do in his life, like I excelled at, like before I was 10 years old.
While his earnings of $23.5 million.
That's not his fault. If his dad's a crybaby, it's not his fault.
His 15th birthday also caused his parents' divorce in that very same year.
But as the money pours in, the Culkin family falls apart.
In the process, Macaulay began to experiment.
I wanted to like drink 40s and get laid and smoke pot. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did.
And in 2004,
he's a very sweet kid, I'm sure, but he does sound very like a kid who wants you like sound black. I want you to drink 40. I want you to get laid. I want you to get pussy, man. That's all I wanted.
For possession of weed. The Home Alone star, 24, was given 1-year deferred sentences on each of the charges in order to pay $540 in fees. After which the tabloid press took this photo and accused Macaulay of taking even harder drugs. He'd respond by stating, "No, I was not pounding 6 grand of heroin every month or whatever." Although at the same time, he would talk about drugs by stating, "I do love them, they're like old friends, but sometimes you outgrow your friends, and it's therefore no surprise that Culkin has since gotten sober. I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't had drugs in my life at some point or another. I had some illuminating experiences, but it's also effing stupid. So besides the occasional muscle relaxer, no, I don't do drugs recreationally."
Oh, hypocrite. It's still a drug.
Thanks.
I know people are always struck at how normal I am. I'm like, just like, wow, really? I think my
you
reputation.
made it through the maze of being a famous child.
Yeah.
Macaulay Culkin recently had a baby and is these days usually only in the press for positive reasons.
That's good. No, that annoys me. I see him brought up every time someone talks about like a celebrity that had a decline after being like a child actor. Because the main reason you always see him brought up is because he looks like he's on drugs. When in reality, he's probably like somewhat anorexic, or not even anorexic, but has like a very high metabolism, so he looks very thin all the time. And just because of that tiny reason, he's portrayed as like a huge crackhead. What he probably did it like once and immediately got clean. And that just sucks because there are people who do drugs for like 10 years of their life, but they still look like incredible on camera. But then there's one picture that's like all over the news of him, and people immediately act like, oh my god, poor guy. He was big when he was a kid, but now he's washed up. I think that probably explains why he's not doing as many roles as he is today. I mean, the only time I see him is whenever it's brought up like, oh my god, you're the kid from Home Alone. Like, yeah, it's me, Macaulay Culkin. Like, I can't remember the last time I saw him in something serious where he was an actual actor or something else, where he wasn't just the Home Alone kid. He was just himself. Even Joe Rogan was like, oh my god, you look so normal. And in that clip, you can see him like, yeah, thank you. Everyone always says that, but I can feel like deep down he's like, you asshole. Of course I'm normal. Does everyone expect me to be a druggie that can't even speak properly? If I was in this situation, I probably just would give up and not do anything else, because I'm sure he has enough money back from when he was big as a kid that he doesn't have to do anything. Look, as long as he doesn't spend like millions of dollars every year, he can still live like a nice, quiet, comfortable life. You know, fair enough. If he was a massive actor when he was a kid, he's probably so sick and tired of it that he finds no joy in it. So I'd much rather have that than him being in movies where he just looks miserable, and you can so clearly tell he only wants to partake in it for money. So I have to respect that. Good on you, Home Alone kid.
She lick ass and blow dicks like flutes. I like them cute brown tits and fat asses. Educated so I can bust up on their glasses. I wanna come on your tongue and gums all night. The bitch drink nuts by the pint.